My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, and they got upset when I insisted I hadn't. I, 31 male, and my wife, 29 female, had a baby last December. It was a traumatic birth and my wife developed postpartum depression. While she was originally going to go back to work after the birth, she's been struggling enough that we decided to wait until our daughter was a year old and reassess. She has been going to therapy weekly. With my wife home full-time, I've had to work increased hours. This is something we discussed prior to making this decision, and she knew this from the start. A few weeks ago, my boss approached me about a project that would require a lot of overtime in a short amount of time. It would both be great financially and for my career. I talked to my wife about it, and she agreed that I should say yes to my boss. For the 4 weeks I'd be working on this, my Mel and her best friend, Jessie, 29 female, name change, would come help out with some of the duties that I typically do. Jessie is a Psalm with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. She began coming over during the day and would watch the kids with my wife. 3 weeks into the project, it became clear that we'd need a few more weeks to get it together. I went home that night and talked to my wife about it. She said she was okay with it, but got very cold in the days after. It wasn't unusual behavior over the past few months, so I didn't think much about it and tried not to take it personally. During the last week of the project, I got home one night and saw that Jessie was still at the house. I didn't think much about it, said hi to her, my wife, and then went to go check on our daughter. Before I could get to her room, I heard Jessie say something along the lines of, "He doesn't even stop to greet you. Definitely a sign." I turned around and asked what it was a sign of. Immediately my wife started crying and Jessie started accusing me of having an affair. She told me that I must hate my wife because she has PPD and I'm not attracted to her because she gained weight from the pregnancy. Neither of these things are true. I'm trying my best to help my wife through her PPD while supporting our family. And I think she looks great how she is right now. She just hasn't wanted to have sex and I haven't pushed. Jessie then demanded to see my phone. I told her no. She told me that's a sign that I'm guilty. I told my wife that I would let her see my phone if she wanted to. She nodded and something inside me broke. I guess it was the thought that she actually believed I was having an affair really got to me, and that she didn't trust me after everything we've been through. Well, she looked through the phone and there was no evidence. Jessie started saying that I deleted the evidence. She started screaming and woke up our daughter, so I told her to get out of the house. Eventually, she left and I went to calm our daughter since my wife was still on the couch crying. When my daughter was asleep again, I sat down by my wife and tried to talk to her about what's been happening. She told me that she's been worried ever since I started working all the overtime. I told her that we'd talked about how good of an opportunity it was, and she agreed to letting me take on this project. She said it was very suspicious to increase the length of the project. I told her that sometimes that happens. She wanted more evidence, so I showed her messages and emails with timestamps from work and pay stubs showing the OT. She said she believed me and was sorry for doubting me. It was just that Jessie had been telling her that these were all signs that I was cheating. I asked her why she believed Jessie more than me, and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She didn't have a real answer. It's been a couple weeks and the project is over. I actually scaled back and am trying to work a little less than I was before the project so I can spend more time with my wife and daughter. But I feel so burnt out trying to do everything and becoming resentful, because in the back of my mind, I know that my wife doesn't trust me. I ask myself, what happens the next time I have a project? Or I have to run errands one day? Or if I have a business trip, am I going to come back every time to accusations that I'm cheating? I've tried bringing it up a couple times, but my wife tells me it's not the time, and that she's tired or sad. I try to be mindful of her feelings, but I wonder if that means that I can never have any of my own. I'm not sure what to do here. Any advice for how I can move forward? Comments. Comment 1. I hope Oop didn't let Jessie speak. What an awful, awful woman. She destroyed a marriage, made an already depressed woman feel even more stressed and upset. Her actions led said woman to having a mental break and dying. And she left a newborn without a mother. Absolutely horrendous. Even if a situation looks like it might be cheating, you don't dump that onto someone recovering from pregnancy and PPD. You support them until they're mentally well and ready to handle that information appropriately. Comment 2. It's a blessing Oop was able to keep their child away from his wife, refused to his wife unsupervised visitation request. She was clearly in deep psychosis at that stage, and with her being outside hospital there wasn't anything anyone could do to help her see a different choice. Every time I read this post my mind erases the ending because it's just so sad. I hate to say it, but the in-laws' lack of urgency in getting their daughter immediate inpatient care, them not watching her like a hawk and allowing Jessie to speak at the funeral, all suggest they believed Oop had been unfaithful and didn't realize the extent of her mental deterioration. I really hope has got the help and support he needs to get through this past year, and is able to keep his daughter far, far away from Jessie. Update. That night I approached my wife and told her that I was going to find a therapist. I didn't connect it to her accusations or anything. Just said that I was having a tough time and needed therapy. She shrugged and told me to do whatever. Next day I got home from work and our room and my home office were ripped apart. Things everywhere. Important papers scattered. I don't see her, but our daughter's in her room crying. My wife left her alone, her cell phone's off. I call my in-laws and a few friends, but no one's seen her. I'm starting to get worried and I call my mom to see if she can babysit while I go out and look for her. Before my mom can get home, my wife gets back. Jessie's driving. Jessie doesn't come in. She hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my behavior, but my wife does. She's clearly upset, been crying. I ask what happened. I thought at first the house might have been robbed. She starts screaming at me that I'm being unfaithful, and that the therapy is a front so I can meet my mistress. I try to calm her down and tell her that's not true, but she came at me and she hit me. My nose is broken. She kind of realized what she did, and sat down on the couch and went comatose, just stared at the wall. I went into my daughter's room and locked the door. Called my mom to tell her what happened. She was already on her way, and my mill to ask her to come over and take care of my wife. I packed a bag for my daughter, and when my mom got there, we left. My wife didn't even look up. We dropped my daughter off with my dad, and then went to urgent care for my nose. I got blood all over my mom's new Subaru. My daughter and I are staying with my parents for a while, and my wife's staying with hers. I am looking into getting a restraining order against Jessie. My wife and I are separating. I love her, but I won't live with someone who hurts me and who could potentially hurt our daughter. I am not going forward with a divorce yet, with the hopes that my wife will get the treatment she needs and we can work things out. My in-laws told me that they're looking at inpatient treatment at a local hospital. But I also have everything well documented in case of an eventual custody battle. My heart's broken because I know this isn't my wife, this is a sickness in her mind. But I need to keep myself and our daughter safe and give her the space to recover. I'm hoping that this is the right decision. Thanks again, everyone. Edit. Thank you all for your feedback. I've talked to my parents after reading your comments and came to the conclusion that for my daughter's protection, I need to file a police report. I am headed to the station now. A woman fed lies to my wife, suffering from postpartum depression that led to a mental breakdown in her death. She now wants to speak at my wife's funeral. Denying her would start trouble, which I'm not sure would be worth it. There's more context for this situation in my post history. My wife passed on early Monday morning. Convinced by her friend Jessie that I was having an affair that I did not have, she had a mental break, which resulted in my taking our infant daughter and staying with my parents for a while. She was with her parents, who planned on taking her to the hospital for inpatient treatment on Monday. On Sunday night she came to my parents' house and demanded I give her our daughter. Because she had left her alone for several hours the last time she was responsible for her, and had gotten physical with me, I refused. I offered to let her come in and spend time with her while my parents and I were present, but she didn't want to come in and wanted to take our daughter with her. She was upset, but left eventually. A few hours later she drove her parents' car into a tree and died. The friend, Jessie, came to see my daughter and me yesterday. After some tears she told me that she was planning to speak at my wife's funeral. She had already cleared it with my in-laws but was letting me know as a courtesy. I told her she would not be speaking at the funeral. We fought and she left after telling me that I was an asshole, and not the only person who loved my wife. I talked to my in-laws who are adamant that Jessie be allowed to speak. She and my wife knew each other since they were kids and my in-laws are close to her. We're all very fragile right now, and I fear that pushing this further would hurt my relationship with my in-laws, which I don't want. Still, the thought of seeing Jessie up there at my wife's funeral makes me feel sick. I don't think I can stand to listen to her, knowing that she took joy in my wife's deteriorating mental health and picked up my wife, leaving my daughter home alone. That being said, I don't trust myself to make the best decisions right now. My mind's clouded by grief, guilt, and fear. My parents are split on what to do and I don't have the energy to reach out to my friends. So I'm coming here again to ask for your advice. Now, for the next story. My sister was sent to boarding school but never returned. Oop suspects foul play and believes the parents and grandmother may be involved. Throw away. because this is seriously terrifying. I scope Reddit a lot, and I really don't know where to go, but I hope I can be helped here. I'm 14M, I'm American but live in Asia. Being vague because I don't want this traced back to me if the situation is as bad as it seems. I don't know if I should give some sort of background or anything, but up until about 7 months ago, I lived with my mom 39 and my dad 41 plus my little sister 9. I say was because my sister is no longer here, she's in boarding school. I want to preface this by saying we are not bad kids. We're half white, half Asian. When my grandpa and dad's side got sick 4 years ago, we moved here so my dad can take care of him. Me and my sister worked hard to learn the language. Despite her age, she actually caught on better than me and I was so impressed with her. The issue began with Grandma. She would really look down on my sister, and I love my sister and didn't like it one bit. My mom said it's cultural and I shouldn't make a fuss, but it was hard when Grandma really started making it obvious. She got me clothes, games, etc., but my sis got no attention. I should mention that 4 years ago, we lived with Grandpa and Grandma. In that time of me getting spoiled, my sister got reprimands for everything she did, I swear. It was super unfair, you wouldn't believe. Just under a year ago, Grandpa passed and my parents decided we'd stay here since I already speak and read pretty fluently. Grandma spoke to everyone about how rude and unladylike my sister is, and my parents went along with it when I completely think that's wrong. 7 months ago, her and Grandma went out, and my parents said she'd be at boarding school for the summer, just the summer. After 3 months, I got anxious and asked when she'd be back, and I ended up crying at the question. I was talked to by my dad, and he said she loved boarding school so much she didn't want to come back yet. Is that how boarding school works? I don't think so. Maybe I've been watching too much TV or reading too much Reddit, but we're in another country and I swear what they were doing was emotional abuse. Still, it gets worse. After 5 months, I still hadn't gotten any contact, no message, no letters, nothing, and that's when my dad started making her room into his office space. We actually got into a big fight over it, and I ended up with more chores, but he never answered why he was doing it if she'd be back soon. Anyway, it's now been 7 months since that car trip that took my sister away and the final nail in the coffin hit. I was looking through the attic for my mom and found a box with some of her old stuff, including her phone. Why wouldn't she have her phone? I really just want to know if there's anything I can do. No one will tell me which boarding school she's at. I'm told not to worry about it because I'm a child. I know I'm too young to do much, but if there's anything I can do, please help. When I think about it, I can't stop remembering the way my mom cried that day. It makes me shiver. I've been imagining the worst and I'd hate if it ended up being something along my mind. Update: haven't seen my sister in a long. I was able to get in touch with a few different sources, the least favorite of which was a phone call towards those that help find trafficked children. I knew my family would be investigated and actually went to meet up with another family in that time, so basically a Redditor close to my age, who I'll keep private, met with me and she had already showed my story to her family. They ended up letting me stay with them for a bit, and made the proper calls to make sure it wasn't illegal. I actually even specified that I wasn't running from home and I'd come back after the investigation. It didn't sit so well with authorities and I was actually forced to go back home, but it only got stranger from there. I went back home to a completely empty house. Even Grandma was gone. So I was allowed to stay with the other family for the time being. They were extremely kind. For a week I didn't get any news and, bless her mother's heart, but I was told I had a home here, no matter the results. So a few days after a week had passed, I get a call and it turns out they found my sister. My family had been taken in for questioning and were placed in holding for quite a while. I'm not sure why they didn't tell me this immediately though. I don't actually know the full story. But my sister was living close 700 kilometers away. Yeah, nearly a whole day's drive. It wasn't summer school, or boarding school, or anything like that. My dad sold her to get married. My mom was off the hook as one. I still needed a parent. And two, she wasn't in on it until it was a decent way in. My dad and Grandma have been arrested though, and I'm back living with my mom and sister now. I'm still in contact with the Redditor that let me stay with her, and I'll forever be grateful. I have no idea what would have happened if I was around when authorities came knocking. She's my angel. On a more depressing note, my sister doesn't speak much, but she seemed to cheer up after I let her read my post. She said she felt abandoned and alone, among other things, but seeing how I and plenty of strangers gave their hearts for her made her very happy, so thank you all. Sorry for being vague here, but I'm trying to protect identities. This isn't over by a long shot. There's still things that are going to happen, but I have my sister, and that's all thanks to Reddit. Thank you. Reminder: I am not the original poster. Op note: I'm marking this concluded for now, because they got her back. Comments. Comment 1. My dad used to threaten to marry me off if I didn't behave the way he wanted. Do you know there are girls younger than you who are already mothers? A husband will shape you up before you disgrace me. The last time he used that as a threat was when my mom was within earshot, and she verbally tore him a new one. He never did it again. I'm glad Oop found their sister. Poor child. Comment 2. The most heartbreaking reality of Oop's story is that if it weren't for him, no one else in his family would have advocated for his sister. She was only saved because of her brother's determination to find his baby sister and the other Redditor's family taking him in and helping him. I'm sorry, but I do not buy the excuse the mother was an American citizen and couldn't speak up due to family pressure. Her silence, inaction, and not fighting for her daughter makes her an indescribable evil type of person. If it were my kids, I would have told the husband and grandma, I'm taking the kids to movies and book it to the American embassy and raised hell. She could have also gone to the embassy the moment she learned of her daughter's trafficking. The US isn't the most perfect country, but American citizens are protected abroad. The State Department will do everything in its power to get their minor citizen back safely. I'm happy the story had a good ending. But it makes me so sad for the little girl and the loss of her innocent security. She is so lucky to have a brother who will go to hell and back for her. I wish the kids nothing but the best and all the happiness in the world. Now, for the next story. A mutual friend tried to start an affair with my newlywed wife for sex and affair. What's the best way to address this situation? So my wife is a bombshell 10/10. But more than that, she is an amazing woman, compassionate, funny, caring, loyal, and badass. And some of her friendly qualities are often mistaken as flirting or expressing interest, so with a heavy heart she is now much more guarded when conversing with strangers. With old friends she is her usual friendly self as they know her, but alas, now one incident has caused her to pull back from interacting freely with friends too. So we just got married last week, and on Sunday night we hosted a small dinner for a few of our close friends. Now one of those close friends has had a crush on my wife for a while now. Nothing serious, but she knew and told me immediately, and then cut all unnecessary communication with him. That sucked for her. Because his wife is a good friend of my wife, and because of his obvious crush they couldn't meet as often. We thought he would get over it, but on Sunday night he cornered my wife for 5 minutes and delivered his love speech about how I had to have her, and now he couldn't sleep knowing that she is married to me. How true love knows no bounds or rules. Love can't be constrained and it should be free, and so on and so forth. She immediately came and told me, but we didn't make a scene as there were other friends there too. Now she is royally pissed and wants to expose him to all our friends group, as he might have done the same thing to others too, or he might in future. I am of the opinion that we should cut contact with him, but don't do anything more than that. What's the best way forward? Comment 1. It's understandable that your wife feels upset after that experience. Setting clear boundaries with this friend and communicating how his actions affected her could be a constructive way to address the situation without escalating it further. Comment 2. You might consider having a calm conversation with your friend to express how his behavior crossed a line. Keeping it private may help avoid unnecessary drama, but it's important to protect your wife's feelings and your relationship. Update. So I got a lot of good advice, and some well-deserved criticism about my behavior too. It was indeed not right for me to take it as lightly as I appeared to do. Believe me, I wanted to fight him, but it would not have solved any issue, only created more. But one thing the majority of commenters got right was that I should have fully supported her desire to go nuclear on him, and I appreciate the honesty from you guys. So anyways, I went and told her that I am sorry I was not more supportive, and I am now 100% behind her, even if it means I have to kick his ass. She laughed and said she has devised a plan of action. She was going to talk to his wife first, and then inform all the women in our friends group, as she thought it would be irresponsible for her to ignore his behavior, in case he already tried with anyone else. So she called his wife for lunch today and she told him. His wife was heartbroken and I stepped away to give her some freedom to vent. I went out and came back when my wife messaged me that she had gone. She told me that his wife confessed that it had happened once before too when they lived somewhere else. Apparently she seemed almost resigned to the fact because she wasn't angry. Rather, she was sad, and when my wife told her that she will be telling other women of his behavior, she didn't protest. My wife has called everyone for lunch on Saturday, and that's when she will tell them. She even feels bad about the wife, but feels it's kind of a moral responsibility to warn everyone. I am in complete agreement here. That's the update. And I am going to treat my wife to some homemade pizza tonight since she is so awesome. Yeah, I can make pizza, LOL. Thanks for the suggestion, guys.